What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Travis from AmericanTrucks.com, and today I'm excited to show you a brand new catback exclusive to American Trucks. This is the Roush single exhaust system featuring these really nice American Trucks exclusive black powder coat tips. Now this thing certainly looks really nice at first glance, but why would you want to opt for this over some of the other options available on the site? Because at first glance, it's really not too crazy compared to some of those other options. And it honestly approaches the whole idea of an aftermarket exhaust install a little bit differently from what you normally might expect. Most exhaust systems, they try and crank out as much volume and sound as possible, and they try to go crazy with new configurations, split side exit tips, split rear exit tips. You got dump options that go right underneath the cab. You got all kinds of massive chrome everywhere. That's not going to be the case here. This will really appeal to somebody who wants a very mild upgrade in terms of volume and sound, but you want something that's going to be really well built. You want something that retains that factory style configuration, and most importantly, you want something that's coming from a big name, and that's Roush. Roush is one of the leading name in exhaust makers. I've been a huge fan for a long time. I've had some Roush systems on my own Mustang, and they always knock it out of the park, and this thing does sound really good. Again, it's not going to go full tilt. We're not trying to wake up the neighbors with this setup. It's not going to give you a 5 out of 5 on that loudness meter, but it is going to allow the EcoBoost motor to breathe a little bit better, and you will definitely get some nice volume coming out of this thing at wide open throttle, as you heard from those sound clips just a minute ago. Now, as far as actual volume is concerned, guys, I'm going to go ahead and summarize this thing as a solid 3 out of 5 on the loudness meter. Personally, I think that's a sweet spot for this system. This system actually provides a ton of turbo feedback from underneath the hood. Some of you might like that. I'm a huge fan of hearing those things spool up, lets you know you got some power underneath the hood. You'll definitely hear those turbos whining and whirring, and you'll actually get a nice amount of back pressure and some of those really cool pops and rumbles on decel, and that's kind of hard actually to pull off with the EcoBoost. It's a lot easier with a V8, but again, Roush did an amazing job with how they designed the muffler on this kit. All 3-inch tubing, by the way, mandrel bent, 409 stainless steel, which is factory grade stainless steel. So it's safe to say if you daily your truck, you take it off road, you drive through snow or rain or whatever, you won't have to worry about this thing rusting out on you anytime soon. And then where looks matter most, guys, I have to say, I'm not just saying it because it's an AT exclusive. The powder coat finish that they managed to lay down on these tips is probably one of the nicest and smoothest and most consistent that I've seen in quite a while. And powder coat does an amazing job, again, of resisting that rust and corrosion. As long as you pretty much wipe these off once in a while, they'll pretty much look brand new for years to come. Honestly, guys, I would expect this thing to cost a lot more than it does. It actually comes in at around the $700 price point, which makes it one of the more affordable options on the site. That's pleasantly surprising, again, coming from the Roush name. Other things to consider here, you might be bolting this on at home in the driveway with some basic hand tools, so you really want that install to go nicely. You want to make sure everything is sized up and cut perfectly, and again, Roush quality control, they do a fantastic job. I've thrown a ton of different exhaust systems on a lot of different trucks, F150s especially, and guys, some of those exhaust hangers under there can be a little bit of a pain, but I do have to say, throwing this thing on just a minute ago, this was probably one of the easiest to install that I've done in quite a while. So that should be some reassurance for you at home. Again, if you're working with something like basic jack stands and some hand tools, no problem. You might have to make one cut to the provided mid-pipe in this kit, but I'm actually going to show you a trick how to get this thing sized up really easily so you can get the perfect measurement, and I'll even show you what kind of cut you need to make on there. Overall, this shouldn't take you more than 2 hours, so for that reason, I'm going to give the install a very soft 2 out of 3 wrenches on the old difficulty meter. All right, guys, before we get started with the Roush system, you'll need a standard drive ratchet, a couple of shallow sockets, including a 10 and a 13, a couple of deep sockets, including a 15 and a 21, and you'll need an 18mm socket. That's to install the new hanger on the leaf spring bolt. That can be shallow or deep. I'd strongly recommend having that as a swivel if at all possible. You'll also want a breaker bar, again, for the nut on that spring bolt. You also might have to make a cut to the provided mid-pipe, so you'll need a cutting implement and a measuring tape of some sort, and you'll definitely want a dead blow mallet to kind of bang on the factory muffler, maybe get things loosened up a little bit. Also strongly recommend some spray lubricant for those exhaust hangers and rubber isolators, and to make the whole job go a little bit easier and smoother, I recommend an impact gun, again with a universal impact swivel socket. All right, first thing we have to do is separate our factory system from our wide pipe. We're going to disconnect this flange right here. It's held in place with 2 bolts. You can see here we need a 13mm socket for this one. We're going to be reusing these bolts, so just set them aside for now. Okay, next we're going to disconnect both of these rubber isolators, securing these hangers to the frame rail here. It's just going to make the uninstall a lot easier. So there's 4 bolts in total. You'll need a 10mm socket for these. All right, now we're gonna spray down the remaining hangers that are secured to the last two rubber isolators. You have one just above the muffler right here, and then there's one back on the tailpipe. So go ahead and grab some spray lubricant. I personally recommend WD-40 or PB Blaster, and really get these soaking nice and good here. It's gonna make it easier for us to slip these out of here. All right guys, so once you have all those hangers and isolators really sprayed down, now comes the fun part, and that's getting the muffler to slide out of the rubber isolators. Yours probably has some rust, so you're probably gonna want a pry bar for this, but just get some effort on this muffler and then push it back as hard as you can to unseat it. Now once you've done that, you wanna kind of turn the muffler sideways, go ahead and lift up, and you should be able to pull the tailpipe up over the axle. All right guys, so getting that factory cap back removed was probably the hardest part. Honestly, that's all thanks to that big flex fitting right there. But as long as you got the exhaust out of one piece, now we can move forward. Now, you wanna pull the Roush system out of the kit, and you wanna put everything together. That way you can make sure all the slip fit connections on all the pipes are nice and opened up. If you need to tap some of those ends with a hammer to kind of flare them out a little bit, now's gonna be the time to do so. But I also wanted to give you a nice comparison between the two systems, because honestly, you can't really tell on the website, but putting these next to each other, you can see how our Roush muffler is incredibly simple, especially compared to the factory setup. This is a baffled and chambered muffler. It's big, it's heavy, it kills all the sound coming out of the engine. That's no good. Now the Roush muffler is pretty much straight through. It's kind of the exact opposite design, a lot more free flowing. That's also gonna provide tons of lope at idle. And we're also ditching the resonator here on our mid pipe. That's gonna allow the turbos to breathe a little bit better. You'll definitely hear some feedback and some of that good spooling sound from those turbos because we're ditching that as well. We're also keeping the factory flange connection back here, so that's why we're retaining those factory bolts. Makes the whole install a little bit easier. And then working our way down to the business end here, Roush threw on some really nice double black powder coat tips. Those are slash cut and rolled. Everything's made out of stainless steel as well, so shouldn't have any issues with rust or anything like that. Powder coat is also incredibly resistant to the elements outside. So as long as you wash the tips off occasionally, they'll pretty much look brand new for years to come. We're also keeping all of our hanger locations, and that's a good segue into the next thing that we have to do. Now, depending on your cab and bed length, you're gonna have to make a cut to the provided mid pipe in the kit. And unfortunately, the instructions don't really spell out a good method of doing so. They don't provide the measurements. They do tell you that you should actually mock up the exhaust on the truck with the muffler and the tailpipe and the tips, as well as the flange connection. Then you're supposed to throw the mid pipe up there and try and get it sized. But unfortunately, if you do that, you have to uninstall everything and then put it back together. I'm gonna make it a lot easier for you guys. In order to size up the mid pipe to the correct length, go ahead and put the factory system next to the new one like we have here, get them nice and close to each other, and all you really have to do is actually grab a measuring tape and measure from the tip of this factory hanger to the tip of this factory hanger. That's gonna give you that difference in length that you need to cut off of the mid pipe so that all the hangers end up in the same location as they originally did. So I have to cut 16 inches off of our mid pipe. I'm gonna head over to our chop saw real quick. We'll make that cut. Once you've made your cut, go ahead and meet me underneath the truck and I'll show you how to get the rest of this thing bolted on. All right, so we made the cut to our provided extension pipe. Now we got to get this factory isolator here off of our muffler assembly, because this is actually going to be securing our new muffler. So before we throw anything on the truck, let's go ahead and pull this off and let's get this secured on our frame rail again using those original bolts. Okay, so we're going to be throwing this on the rearmost speed clips here. So you want to push this as far back on the frame rail as possible. And your truck probably has some miles on it, and these are kind of fine threads. These little speed clips can be kind of temperamental, if you will. So just get these hand threaded in here before you drive them home with your socket. So first we're going to throw the adapter here, this flange adapter for the mid-pipe in place. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we are reusing our factory bolts here. And the same thing applies for these bolts. These are kind of fine threads, and they can be a little sticky. They can cross-thread very easily, so make sure you get the studs through on both sides all the way. Now, we're also not going to be tightening this down completely, because as you can see, it kind of has some movement in there, and we want to make sure we have good alignment for the rest of our pipes. So we're going to get this tight enough that it's not going to fall out or anything like that, but we're going to keep it loose enough that we can kind of move it around a little bit. Okay, now that the flange and that adapter is secure, we're going to throw the mid-pipe in place. And we're also going to secure the mid-pipe to the adapter, because again, we want the angle of the pipe to be moved around as needed. You'll need a 15 mil socket for these clamps, by the way. Okay, our mid-pipe is hung up. Now we're going to throw our muffler in place. We'll line up the slip fit connection with this isolator that we just reinstalled. And make sure you have a clamp on here. We're gonna leave the clamp loose though, guys, because we wanna, again, have some play in here so we can get the tailpipe in place. And again, it's the same thing for the tailpipe as well. Spray down both of those isolators, make it easy. So you can slip these in here. Might have to put a little bit of pressure on them anyway. And as you're working those in there, make sure you line up this connection as well. All right, we're just about done. Now we're gonna throw on this little Y pipe here for our exhaust tips, and he actually has a hanger provided in the kit that secures to this bolt right here on the leaf pack. We're not gonna be removing this bolt completely, guys. This is a load-bearing piece here, so we're just loosening up a little bit using an 18mm socket for the bolt, and I'm actually holding the nut on the other side using a big breaker bar with a 21mm socket. Again, you do not, under any circumstances, want to remove this bolt completely. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad day, your leaf pack's gonna wanna fly out and go everywhere, and it can be dangerous. So, whether your truck is under load or not, just loosen up this bolt enough to get this little hanger inside of there, then we're gonna tighten it back down. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide the Y pipe onto our tailpipe, and I'm also gonna make sure I have that clamp on there. Get him nice and seated all the way. And then go ahead and get this hanger oriented. All right, now when I go to tighten this back up, guys, I'm not gonna be tightening it all the way, because currently our truck is in the air and our suspension is not under load. Now, because my suspension's not under load, if I were to tighten this down all the way, when I go to bring the truck back down, you could actually tear the rubber bushing inside of here. So we're just gonna get this tight enough that it's gonna be secure, but we're not gonna torque it down all the way until we're completely done. Once we get the truck on the ground, we'll come back at the end and we'll tighten him down completely. Okay, now everything is secure. We're happy with how this little white pipe is sitting, so now we can throw on our exhaust tips. We want the Roush logo angled up, and you have these two remaining band clamps in the kit. They're a little bit smaller than all the rest. So just go ahead and get these seated, play around a little bit with the fitment, and once you're happy, we can drive them home. Again, it's gonna be a 15mm socket for these clamps. All right, so our exhaust is now in place. We're happy with how everything's fitting. You wanna go back through here and make sure that everything's seated correctly. Make sure all your hangers are in the rubber isolators well enough. Make sure none of the tubing is resting against anything like any heat shields or anything like that. And then you can finally tighten down all the clamps in the kit. Again, 15mm socket for everything. Okay, now we're back up here at the flange. This is the last thing we have to tighten down on the exhaust. And again, it's a 13mm socket for these bolts. All right guys, so once you got the tip zipped down, you've double checked all your connections, you got all your clamps tightened down, go ahead and turn the motor over, make sure you don't have any exhaust leaks or any rattling or anything like that. That'll wrap up this very easy install. And that'll also wrap up my review of the Roush single exhaust system featuring these really nice black powder coat tips fitting your 11 to 14 3.5 liter EcoBoost powered F150. Be sure to check it out more on the site, and for all things F150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.